Well, good morning, you degenerates. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking another deep dive into the New World MMO that's coming out soon. Last time we took a look at the general tab of the website. This time we're going into a little bit more specifics on the general tab. We're going to see how far we get. Let's not make this video too long. Let's see what we can find out about this game. So in we go, and here's the general tab. But last time we read all those nice pretty little paragraphs and we saw some very pretty little pictures of what to expect from the New World's graphics. I'm fairly impressed by it. This time we're going a little bit deeper, just a little bit deeper. Again, this is going to be one of those episodes for those people who don't really want to read through all of this, who they either don't have the time or they're just too lazy. And I understand that quite well. So I'm going to be reading it for you. I'm going to be reading it out loud. I'll give you my thoughts, my opinions on it, and I want to know what you guys think. I want to know whether you think this game will be worth your time or not. This is still part of the general tab. This is still the general information, but it gives us a little bit more depth to dig into. So, making your mark on Aeternum, settlements and governance. Now, this was released on the 10th of February. So not that long ago. So this is some fresh information here. So staking a claim and working together as a community is a critical step on the path to dominance in New World. Aeternum is divided into distinct territories, many of which have their own settlement and fort. Okay, so I'm guessing we've kind of got borders then that we're going to be defending. And again, this kind of harkens back to what I said in the previous episode, where I wonder how the single player experience is going to be versus the group experience. Because, well, I think playing single player is not the way to do this game. I think that you're just going to get stomped so many times. But I guess we'll see. It depends how they integrate it. Maybe you're a lone hunter and you'll be able to interact with larger groups who are controlling larger populations and they won't have a problem with you. Find out on how you can own a piece of Aeternum. We sat down with the lead systems designer, John Liberto, probably saying that wrong, to discuss the ins and outs of the systems and governance in New World. What is a settlement? Settlements are where players live, congregate, craft, trade, work on town projects, and support their faction through faction missions. Death is not the end in Aeternum, so settlements also serve as a respawn point for players unfortunate enough to have fatal mishaps on their adventures. So that's how their respawn is going to happen. So it's not the same as World of Warcraft where you get punished and you have to run back to your corpse. Instead, you kind of get screwed over and you respawn at a town. Now, that is going to be a very interesting system depending on how it's implemented. I hope there's some kind of balance there that you do get punished for dying, because you should get punished for failure. In any game, you should get punished for failure. But I wonder how punishing it'll be. Or do you lose all the gear you had out there? Do you keep everything you picked up? Would death runs be a thing where you run out into a very dangerous area, pick up an item, get whatever you want, die on purpose, and then respawn in town on purpose? Because I would like to see some kind of punishment that kind of avoids that playing the system. I want them to close as many loopholes as possible. I want it to be as immersive as possible, I guess. We've got another nice, lovely little picture here. How do you claim a settlement? During the early stages of the game, players must choose between one of 3 factions. More on them in the future developer blog. Okay, so we've got factions here. So we've got the Horde, we've got the Alliance, and I guess we've got the Scourge now. Interesting. I guess it's one more than we had before. Once you choose a faction, you can create or join a company. When a company is created, it inherits the faction of its creator. I guess that means if you're teaming up with your friends and you create a company, well, all of a sudden, you are the faction of the person who created the company in the first place. Now, I wonder if that means that your personal faction would end up changing, or whether those are 2 separate systems. Companies can gain and control territory, and the settlement or fort that it contains. Companies can gain and control a territory, and the settlement or fort that it contains. So I guess that means you're going to be battling for territories. I kind of expected that based on the trailer. At least you get a little bit more clarity on how that system's going to work. If the territory is uncontrolled, this is as simple as paying the claim fee at the territory's fort. If the territory is already controlled by a company, the territory must be taken through war, which can only occur between companies that belong to different factions. Okay, so we've kind of got a multi-layered system here. So basically you've got your factions, and then you'll have your companies underneath them. And if someone is a different company from you, but the same faction, you don't need to go to war over a settlement. That's a very interesting system. If the territory is already controlled by a company, the territory must be taken through war, which can only occur between companies that belong to different factions. We'll delve further into war and its other related mechanics in another article, so stay tuned to that. So interestingly enough here, war is spelt with a capital letter, which means it's not an action. I'm guessing that war would be a game condition. Now, is it going to be instanced, which I would prefer it wasn't? Is it going to be separated out from the primary game? I really hope not. Based on what I'm seeing here, that means war is an event. I guess war is going to be more than simply just invading a fort. It's going to be like a declared condition on a territory, based on what I'm seeing here. So what is the difference between a settlement and a fort? A settlement is where players own homes, craft, refine items, trade, take faction missions, and socialize. Okay, so that'll be your main area. That'll be your hometown, basically. A territory's fort is the major point of defense for a territory. The fort is basically your bastion. It's where you have to hold the line or either take the line, depending on whether you're committing an act of war or whether you're defending against an act of war, I guess. It is what comes under attack during war, PvP, and invasion, PvE. So there are two conditions here. So your forts can go under the war condition, which is a PvP event, and the invasion condition, which is a PvE event. Now that gives some clarity on how the system works. So these are going to be in-game events that occur while players are going through it. Now I hope that this game is very successful and that there are a lot of people in here, because it would kind of suck if the game dies off after a few months, there's not that many players, and no one can handle invasions anymore. That would just make the game horrible. I hope there's some kind of scaled leveling as well to keep invasions interesting. I'm wondering how they're going to do that, especially if you've got a really small company fighting against a really large, defensible company that's already holding the fort. Would it even be viable to declare war then? Do you need certain conditions? Do you need to fulfill certain item requirements? What is the conditions for war? I really want to know more about that system. Invasion seems like, I don't know, from my perspective, from my understanding of it, invasion would seem like a dumbed down version of war, because it's pre-programmed. It allows you to use elements that are in the game instead of other players, and players have a tendency to try and find loopholes. So I'm hoping the war system is very well polished, because if it's not, all its flaws are going to show very, very quickly in the game. So I wonder, how much do you have to pay to claim an unclaimed territory? How do you become a governor? Ooh, we've got titles now as well. The leader of a company is called a governor. Initially, a company's governor is the person who created it. When a company takes control of a territory, the governor of the company also becomes the governor of the controlled territory. Okay, so if you're the leader of a company and you take over a territory, you are then that area's territory. So you might actually be competing with people of your same faction to take over forts before they do, because you might get extra bonuses being the governor as opposed to someone else of the same faction who isn't the governor. So here we've got a little bit of an image of what the governor's desk looks like. We've got taxes and fees. We've got people on your payroll. So there's basically an economy system here, and there's an upkeep. So you're going to be constantly paying into the system. You've got a little earnings tab here based on what I'm seeing, which means that if that goes into the negative, your company might be in deep trouble. Or if you keep it in the positive, that might be a huge bonus to you guys. You might be able to afford things that other people can only dream of. I will give you this. It does give me a few concerns for the single player element of this game. It does make me worry about how screwed over are people who are trying to play solo, because there are people who play MMOs solo. I used to be one of them at one point. I know a few people who do the same. Let's hope it's not too bad. So what can you do as a governor? Ultimately, the faction that a company belongs to is the true ruler of a territory. Companies act as a proxy for the faction they are a part of. As a governor, your responsibility is to maintain control of your territory for your faction. You are also responsible for upgrading and maintaining the quality of life in your settlement by starting town projects that result in settlement upgrades when completed. Now, are these upgrades permanent? Are these upgrades kind of like buffs that run out? Because surely there's got to be an upper threshold if they're not. Surely you would get to a point where everything is fully upgraded and you can't really take the system further than that. Can you expand the settlement? Does it get larger as you upgrade? This system could be really good or really bad. I'm praying really good. I guess we'll see when it gets released. Dues in the form of territory upkeep must be paid to the faction your company is a part of. Okay, so you have to actually pay your faction. Interesting. So if you mismanage things very heavily, you actually get punished for it. I like that a lot. There's a very immersive element there. If you're a really bad governor, people are not going to like you. That's great. That's wonderful. In order to pay this upkeep, the governor can adjust taxes and fees in their settlement so that travelers and residents help to pay the upkeep as they craft, trade, and live in their houses. Wow. Okay, so you get to tax other people. You get to set the tax, you get to take tax from people, and you get fees from the settlement. So any traveler that comes in, any resident that lives in there, they have to pay the upkeep for you. So that adds another element of it. Are you going to be a good governor? Are you going to keep prices fair? Are you going to try and be as greedy as possible? That lends to very interesting playstyles. Can you make sure that no traveler can afford to come into your settlement? Will that make you more of a target or less of a target? I am really fascinated to see how that works out. There sounds like there's not just gaming depth, there's not just physical mechanical depth in that system, but that's going to socially change the way you interact with people. It's going to change how you view the other people in the game. It's going to have an impact psychologically on the player as they go through certain regions. They might really dislike someone. They might really hate certain governors, and they might really like other ones. I'm interested to see how this works out, though, for players who log off for a time period. So let's say you're a governor of a place and you log off for a week. Something's happened in your life. You've been really busy, so you can't really log in that often. Will that affect the way the settlement is run? If the governor disappears, does that mean that everyone else suffers? Does that mean that the settlement gets taken over? Because unfortunately for all gamers, real life is a thing. And that means that, sometimes the real life elements might get in the way of you playing this game. They can also make their settlements more desirable to own a home in by focusing on particular upgrades for particular types of players. Oh, so you even get to surround yourself with specific types of players. That means you could niche down and corner a piece of the gaming market within the new world. So what is a consul and what do they do? A consul is a governor's second in command. A company can have as many or as few consuls as it wishes. Consuls have almost all the same permissions and powers as the governor of the company and territory they control. Ultimately, a consul can do the things a governor might need to do in the governor's absence. Being a governor can be a demanding role to play in the new world. The consul rank in a company is a way for governors to share some of the responsibilities with other company members that they trust. I was just asking, what happens when a person disappears into real life? Well, I guess if you've got enough consuls, you don't need to worry about it. That also means that if you employ the wrong consuls, you can screw yourself over. So I just got my question answered. I guess let me know what you think in the comments down below about how this system's going to work. Do you think it's going to be a good system? Do you think it's going to be a bad system? Maybe I'm fanboying here, but I'm excited. I think this looks like it's going to be a good system, a really, really solid system. What and how can you upgrade your settlement? A settlement's crafting and refining stations can be upgraded. Upgrading these stations enables higher quality and more powerful items to be crafted by the player that spend their time there. Additionally, a territory's lifestyle buffs and fort upgrades are controlled by the governor. Lifestyle buffs are powerful, long-term bonuses for things like crafting and combat that only apply to your territory's residents. It actually benefits to be a part of someone's settlement, because if you're a resident, you get a buff out of it. You get a very unique crafting system from it as well. You get to upgrade very specific stations, which might attract the right kind of people that you need. And on top of that, you get better items out of it. So this is just, I guess, a quick look at the territory menu that's sitting here. You get to upgrade different parts of it. You get to improve the lifestyle, upgrade the forts, weaken invasions, or prepare for wars. Residents are people who own houses in your settlement. If a player does not own a house in a settlement, they will not receive the territory's lifestyle buffs. Like other upgrades, lifestyle buffs are activated through town projects set by the territory's controlling company. So that little improve lifestyle button there, that right there will be your buffs. That's what'll make people come to your town. Now, what are town projects? Town projects are large-scale activities people can work on together to upgrade their settlement. Town projects require a significant amount of effort and investment from not only the controlling company, but also the players that call the settlement home. Town projects are activated by a settlement's governor or one of their consuls. When a town project is activated, players in the town can take missions that progress the project towards completion. These missions award XP and currency, among other things. But more importantly, they advance the town project. For example, let's say you want to upgrade your settlement's forge, which will enable weapon and armor crafters to create higher quality arms and armor for their adventurers. To do so, you would activate the Upgrade Forge town project, and then you, members of your company, and anyone else living in the town can work together to complete the project. Okay, so you get rewarded as a single player. You feed into a larger system, but you don't have to interact with someone. Now that solves one of the single player issues that had me a little bit concerned. It seems like if you get a large enough group, you will dominate the game. However, playing solo, you can still contribute and you can still get something out of playing. So this is just a little window taking a look at the town projects. We have, I guess it's quests by the looks of it. So get a bunch of ingots, get some silk, go kill some wolves, go kill some elk, get leather. Yeah, you know, you got your fetch quests, your craft quests, your kill quests. I'm wondering how in-depth these quests are going to be, or are they going to be just stock standard, cookie cutter kind of quests? I'm hoping not. How does a settlement level up or down? Each time a town project completes, the settlement levels up. The settlements begin to level down when upkeep is not paid to the controlling faction, or if players fail to repel a corrupted invasion. We'll dig into corrupted invasions more deeply on our road towards closed beta. So it's a continual uphill battle. We've kind of got a Sisyphean system here, where if you let go of the boulder that you're pushing up the hill, well, the boulder's rolling down back on you. So there's kind of a motivation to keep upgrading, to keep pushing forward, to keep the upkeep going. So if you've got a very valuable town, you're also going to have a far higher upkeep. If you have some no-name nothing town that's just a little settlement out of the way, you're going to have little to no upkeep, based on what I understand from that paragraph. That's very strategic of the devs. You could have a town that does nothing, but it's safe for you and your friends. Or you could have a bustling metropolis that has everything, that's got great upgrades, but oh boy, are those upgrade costs going to be real high. So how do I join a settlement? Well, you can use the services of any settlement. You join one by purchasing a house there. Anyone can live in any house, in any settlement, regardless of which faction they are in, or which company currently controls the territory. If the territory changes hands, the residents of a settlement are generally unaffected. So you as a single player, let's say you've bought a house in a large territory. You log off for the night. Suddenly someone declares war on it. The settlement changes faction. At least you don't lose your house. You don't lose your own resources. You may have not been there. That would seem very unfair, so at least that solves the problem again for a single player. I really like how they've telescoped this down, and they've made sure that group cooperation is really important, but so is single player like mechanics. You don't get screwed over by large groups, it seems. There might be ways to grief people, don't get me wrong, but the griefing is not as bad as what I originally thought it would be. I thought if you were a single player, someone takes over a settlement or town, well, your house got stomped into the ground. Goodbye. Doesn't matter how much you paid for it. All your resources, goodbye. Gone. They belong to a new faction. But it seems it doesn't work like that. And what's interesting is that people of other factions can live in your settlement, even if you are the governor of a settlement of a completely different faction. I'm interested to see how that works, because if you are a resident within a certain settlement that's owned by a different faction, your faction declares war on it, is it only the company under that faction that's declared war? Or are you now going to be battling people in the streets along with that? Can you join in the war? Are you kind of locked out of the war because you're not part of that company? Which would kind of suck. I would love to see how that works. If the territory changes hands, the residents of a settlement are generally unaffected, aside to any changes to taxation, upgrades, and lifestyle buffs the new controlling company might take. We'll have a lot more information on player housing in a future developer blog. Whether you aspire to be a governor, a highly valued citizen, or simply a wandering adventurer, settlements are a place you'll want to call home and fight to protect. Governors are the leaders of companies and the rulers of territories. They are in the unique position of being able to shape their dominion and the lives of the players who call it home. They can be a representative of the people, or they can rule with an iron fist. What will you do with that power? So that's been a short little look that we've just taken into New World, another one of the pages on their website. Maybe we'll go into a dev diary next time. That is very interesting. We've learnt about the governor system, we've learnt about the people who would live under him and work under him, how many close friends you have, the company system, how these settlements work. Now, I'm very interested to see how much depth is there in the settlement mechanic. Is it going to be like an RTS where you get to place the buildings? Is it simply going to be you take over a settlement that is a certain size, a certain shape, and you now have to work with what you've got? I think there's a lot of depth that can be explored here, but you're walking a tightrope. If the devs screw this up, it is going to be a very bad and a very janky system. I would not trust a smaller developer to be able to do this, not because they are incapable, but because they would not have the time, funding, and energy to be able to do this system correctly. So I'm kind of glad that Amazon Game Studios is behind this. They have probably got all the money in the world that they need to make this system brilliant. I am a little bit worried about all these systems. I do see a few little loopholes that could be exploited, but I guess we'll learn more once we're in game. This could go very well or very badly. But that's been a short look, a short little deep dive into another aspect of New World. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you found this video useful. I'll see you in the next one, but it's time now for you and I to bugger off. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and got some value out of it. And if you did, I'd really appreciate a like, and if you didn't, well, then you know where that dislike button is. And let me know what's on your mind in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.